because I thought I'm gonna go be a teacher. I didn't have the same teaching style that he had, and he would make very rude comments about my teaching style, my personality. I'm doing something wrong. You need to tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can fix it. Hello again. My name is Lori, and I am 40 years old. I was diagnosed with autism about a year ago, and I am learning things about myself that are just making so much more sense now. My whole life has been, what's wrong with me? Asking myself, what's wrong with me? Why don't I fit in? Why can't I have friends? Why can't I keep a job? And with this information, I'm just on this journey to discover myself and answer all these questions that I've always had my whole life. But today I wanted to create a video talking about my experience in trying to keep jobs and jobs that I've been fired from and the reasons why they gave me, which didn't always make sense to me. One of my first jobs was in an office at a garage door company. It was one of my first jobs working outside of just babysitting the neighborhood kids. And so it's very new. I was like 19 years old, maybe 18, super new to the workforce. I liked that job. It was just basically filing and answering phones. I can do that. I was super cheerful, friendly. I showed up on time every day. I was ready to learn. I actually thought I was doing good. Everybody around me told me what a great job I was doing. And they seemed to like me. Then after a few weeks, I think the manager called me into his office and he said, "It's not working, we need to let you go." And I was so young and I've never really experienced firing before. So I was almost on the verge of tears and I asked him, why? What did I do wrong? He told me that they were letting me go because they were looking for somebody more mature. That's exactly what he told me. I will never forget those words. We are looking for somebody more mature. I didn't know what that meant. I was like 18 or 19 years old. I was like, I don't know what you're expecting from me. I wasn't immature. I wasn't irresponsible. I wasn't coming in goofing off every day. I had no idea what he meant by that. It was totally confusing to me. I was never disrespectful. I was never careless. I worked super hard. I followed the dress code that they all told me was the dress code, which was you could wear t-shirts and jeans. It was a garage door company, so they didn't really care. I worked with a lot of older women in the office, and also a lot of construction workers would come through. Sometimes the construction workers would go out of their way to go to my desk that I was at, which was not in the front of the office. It was kind of in the back. They would go out of their way to stop by my desk to say hi. It just kind of made me uncomfortable. There was no reason for them to be talking to me. I was just filing and answering phones. I didn't do any of the scheduling. I didn't have any say in their work, their construction work or their garage door installation. So there was no reason for them to come talk to me. It kind of made me uncomfortable, to be honest. But I just smiled through it. I feel like maybe the older women in the office did not like a cheerful, happy-go-lucky 18-year-old, 19-year-old in the office. What they meant, you're not mature enough, might have really meant that you make us uncomfortable in ways that we can't explain, so we'll just get rid of you. Because I have been also told, which is something that apparently autistic people get a lot, is that my friendliness comes across as flirting, and that's not something I ever thought I was doing or realized that's how people were interpreting. I thought I was just being cheerful and positive and optimistic. When I was in my teens and 20s, I was very, very cheerful, super happy, peppy, little cheerleader, not an actual cheerleader, but I was like a little pep squad in the office. And now I realize that was just masking, because if I showed any kind of negative emotions, frustration, anger, anything like that, people really took that badly. So I had to put on my happy face, but then people interpreted that as flirting. I don't know. Anyway, one of the next jobs that I had was at a vet clinic. I had decided that I wanted to be a veterinary technician, and I got a job as a receptionist at a veterinary clinic. And the manager, owner of the clinic, seemed to really like me in the interview. I was, again, super happy, super peppy, super optimistic, cheerful, ready to go, ready to learn, enthusiastic. And he really liked that. In the interview, he told me that I would be trained on all things, the receptionist work, the veterinary tech work. He was really looking for like a jack of all trades kind of person. And I was like, well, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to do all the things. I was super excited because this was going to lead me to my veterinary technician journey. The head receptionist who was responsible for training me, it kind of felt like she was blocking me from learning new stuff. She kind of kept me, like, once she trained me how to answer the phones and greet the customers and file the files and check people in and stuff, once she did that, she kind of stopped showing me how to do anything else. And I kept asking. I was like, can you show me how to do this? Can I help with this? Da 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 da. I was asking questions. She just kept saying like, well, I don't think you're ready for that yet, or no, we don't really need your help with that. The worst part is that I could hear her talking about me behind my back to the owner. Sometimes she would be in the next room. I would be at the front desk. I could hear them. And being autistic, like, you can feel people's energy. I could feel negativity radiating off of her. And I could hear her tell him stuff like, I don't think she's working out. She's not getting it. But then when I asked her, like, is there anything I can do to help? Is there anything I can do to improve? Is there any feedback you have for me? She couldn't give me anything. So she just didn't like me. And that's something that a lot of autistic people experience. People just don't like us because we have different ways of communicating. It's not necessarily that they don't like us because we're bad people. They just don't understand us, and vice versa. I didn't understand her. I didn't understand why she continued to say no to me when I was ready to learn something new. Eventually, the owner told me that he had to let me go because he was doing renovations on the clinic at the time, and he couldn't afford to pay me anymore. He needed to pay for the renovations. I think it was just easier for him to blame the budget and the renovations than to say you're not getting along with the staff, or the staff doesn't like you, or whatever. Like, I feel like anytime I've been fired, they've had to come up with some other excuse, and I'm always left feeling like I'm the problem, even though they never explicitly say that. How could I not be the problem when this happens time and time again? Fired after fire after fire after fire. But the thing is that neurotypical people can't explain to you why they don't like you. They just know. Neurotypical people know that you're different. They just know it. And they just can't explain it. So they find other excuses to fire you or to cut you off or whatever it is. The reason why I have such freaking low self-esteem, I think, is because this stuff kept happening. Almost exactly the same scenario happened at another vet clinic. Same excuse, same patterns, same thing happening. I go in super excited, super ready to learn, asking questions, paying attention, doing all the things they're asking me to do. And then again, there was a couple of other people, a vet tech and a receptionist, that I just felt like they didn't like me. And as an autistic person, you try so hard to get people to like you, and you try so hard to fit in, and it still doesn't work. Like, neurotypical people know that you're different. Somehow they know. I don't know how they know, but they know. This vet clinic, he was also doing renovations. The owner was doing renovations. And at first, he really liked me. I was like super peppy and happy, which, by the way, is masking. And when I can't maintain that super happy, peppy, cheerful attitude because I'm exhausted from, the fluorescent lights or the cold temperature or the socializing with customers all day long, when I'm burnt out, I am no longer super happy, peppy, cheerful, enthusiastic. I'm still doing the job that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just not putting forth that mask, that attitude that they saw in the interview. But anyway, so he was also doing renovations. He also said, we can't afford to keep you on staff. I think at that point, I started to see that this was a pattern that was happening again and again and again. I just wasn't fitting into some type of system or some expectation that I didn't know about. Like, nobody gives you a user manual for being autistic, or a user manual how to fit into the neurotypical world. Third vet clinic that I worked at, this all really destroyed my dream of becoming a veterinary technician. I really wanted to work with animals, but this is the third one. I actually spoke up about injustices and I got fired for it. So I was often at the front desk, answering phones, checking in clients, filing, making sure things were getting done. And there would often be times where there was a lobby full of customers, the phones were ringing, and I was up there by myself. I was drowning. And I would walk back and I would see one of the receptionists on the computer in the office on Facebook. I was like, can you come help me? There's so many customers. She would say, yes, I'll come help you. But then she would sit there for like another 20 minutes. And by the time she got back up to the front, I'd taken care of everything. So that was really frustrating. I would often go back into the break room to find the other receptionist. I'm like, hey, can you come help me up here? I'm drowning. And they kind of would do the same thing. They would kind of like dilly-dally, for lack of better words. And then by the time I got up there, I was taking care of everything already. So I got really frustrated, and I asked for help so many times. I asked the manager to help me, like, get everybody on task. I wrote a letter, and I think I stated in the letter, like, that I'm better at written communication. So I'm trying to open up some dialogue here by doing this. So I wrote a letter to the manager of the clinic, and I called out some of the employees that weren't helping or doing their jobs, and I was feeling really overwhelmed. And yeah, I wrote this whole letter explaining, and I really wanted to come up with a solution. And instead of addressing the issue, they fired me. I was punished for advocating for myself and trying to improve the workplace and holding people accountable. I got fired. So, and again, they couldn't really tell me why. And they didn't like that I spoke up. They didn't like that I was pushing back. And I think that happens to a lot of autistic people. We see injustices, we see things aren't working right, we speak up, and people don't like it. So at this point, I decided not to become a veterinary technician because I was like, this is 3 vet clinics now, and this is just not, maybe it's just not for me. So I went on to try to get an accounting job. I had gotten my associate's degree from the community college with an accounting certificate, and I thought maybe accounting will be a better fit because working customer facing jobs didn't seem to be working for me. So at this accounting job, I came into the interview super cheerful and happy and enthusiastic and positive, like I always do in every single interview. I've even been told by coworkers that I'm too happy, I'm too cheerful. Am I on drugs? What drugs am I taking? What am I on? And I never understood that because I was just literally trying to fit in, because when I got frustrated or angry or showed any other emotion besides happiness, people would get really upset with me about it. So but people would often, I think people see that cheerfulness as immaturity, lack of seriousness, all those things. Anyway, in this accounting job, they told me in the interview that I would be cross-trained in all of the accounting aspects. There's like accounts payable, there's accounts receivable, and there's payroll. Well, when I felt like I was good on the accounts payables tasks, I started to ask for more jobs. I started to ask for more training. I said, in the interview, you told me that I'd be cross-trained. Well, I'm ready for this. Well, the supervisor that I had told me to focus on perfecting the basics and focus on your accounts payables, and then we can talk about cross-training you. He never gave me feedback. I said, well, what am I doing wrong? Is there something I can improve on? He could never give me any feedback to those things. I didn't act the way that he expected me to act. Side note, when I got my teaching license, because I thought I'm gonna go be a teacher, I also worked with my mentor teacher, and at the end of my year program, he told me that he couldn't write me a recommendation because he thought that I was not ready. There are so many instances in my life where I felt like I was just being gatekept. Because in that instance, all of my university teachers who came in and watched me teach and supervised me, they all said I was doing a great job. They all gave me references. It was just this one guy who said, I'm not ready. And I didn't understand what he meant by that because I was doing all the things that my university needed me to do to pass the course or pass the teaching license. Anyway, speaking of teaching, my next job, I was able to get a job as a long-term substitute teacher. I was not eligible for union protection or anything like that. And about 2 weeks in, the principal and a superintendent came into my classroom without warning, didn't tell me why they were there. They observed me, they said nothing, they left the classroom, and then they pulled me out in the middle of the day, pulled me out of the classroom in the middle of the day. They put somebody else in the classroom to cover, and they told me that I would no longer be teaching that class, but they insisted that I wasn't actually being fired, that they were going to just move me to a floating substitute position where I can just go to different classrooms as needed. So I wouldn't be teaching one class for the course of several weeks. I would be going around to different classes. This was super confusing to me because I thought, if you're pulling me out of this class, I'm doing something wrong. You need to tell me what I'm doing wrong so that I can fix it. And the fact that they didn't want to just fire me, I wasn't protected by the union. They could have fired me without any repercussion. I didn't have a contract. I didn't have anything. But I think that they felt bad because I was scheduled to work this long-term substitute job for a couple of months. And they felt bad, I think. So they were like, we're just going to have you be a substitute float or whatever. So again, people fire autistic people, but then they turn around and they feel bad about it. Like, if I'm truly doing something wrong, you need to tell me so that I can fix it. My mentor teacher, who told me I wasn't ready to be a teacher, he couldn't give me any specific feedback. I asked him, what do you think I'm doing wrong? What can I improve on? What do you mean I'm not ready? What parts of my teaching do you find offensive or whatever? And he couldn't tell me. He could not tell me. And frankly, he just didn't like me. He just didn't like me. I didn't have the same teaching style that he had, and he would make very rude comments about my teaching style, my personality, my clothes. That was probably the hardest year, and he never could give me any useful feedback. So I have tried, and I also feel like I don't know who I am or what I'm interested in. I have just been doing things because people told me that I was good at them. People told me I was good with animals. So I was like, I'm going to become a vet tech, which I do love working with animals. But now I'm realizing that probably was not the right path for me because I can't deal with smells. I can't deal with squidgy liquids or whatever. So all those sensory issues, I think that would have been a bad job for me. People told me that I was good with customers. I was so happy and friendly and chatty with them. That was a mask. I went home every day totally exhausted. I've had some customer-facing jobs that drained me and I burnt out and I would quit. So I haven't been fired from every single job. There are some jobs that I've quit. But I've always done what people told me that they thought I should do. People told me that I was good with kids. I don't even like being around kids, but people told me that I was good with kids. Well, now I'm realizing that was just my mask. That was just me getting through what I had to get through. So I went and got my teaching license and my teaching degree, and I have $130,000 of student debt because I did things that people told me that they thought I should do. And I don't even know who I am or what I want or what I like. And I frankly don't know how to make money sustainably. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's tough. Anyway, in all of these jobs, I showed up, I tried, I asked questions, I asked for help, I wanted to learn, I was enthusiastic, I tried to get along with my coworkers, I was friendly, but being autistic means that people often misread your intentions or misunderstand your tone or judge you for asking too many questions. When you're first learning a job, it's okay to ask questions, but then after 6 months, I guess they expect you to not have any more questions. So people would get irritated with me for continuing to ask more questions. I just wanted to make sure I was doing the job correctly and that I wasn't messing up, because I have a history of being fired when I thought I was doing a good job. So, or oftentimes people assume that I'm not capable because I don't fit some unspoken rules that I don't know about. I was never fired because I was lazy or bad at the job. I just was fired because I wasn't neurotypical and I just wasn't fitting in to some weird social norms that I don't know about or whatever. Yeah, so, but if you're autistic and if you've ever been fired from jobs and you don't understand why, if you've been told you're weird or been given vague reasons like you're not a good fit or you're not mature enough, you're not alone. For my whole life, I thought it was me. I thought I was the problem. And I worked so hard to not be a problem, and I'm still a problem. So it's not me. It's just the world wasn't made for me. Being autistic in the workplace, it can be a minefield of invisible expectations and unclear communication, and misunderstanding. I tried to be so explicit and detailed, and people still don't understand me. I feel like we deserve work environments where we're supported and not silently pushed out. Something that I've been thinking about is studying for actuarial exams and becoming an actuary, getting an actuary license, because there is so many remote jobs. And I would be totally happy if I could just sit at home with my heated blanket and my lights that I can dim down when I need to, and silence and no interruptions by coworkers. And I could just do my data entry, my data analysis, do my math problems alone in my house. That would be ideal. And if I knew that I was autistic long, long ago, I would never have tried getting a customer-facing job. I would never have tried to becoming a teacher, because schools are just chaotic and noisy and just not great for autistic people. So I never would have become a teacher if I knew that I was autistic long, long ago. And I would have looked more for remote jobs like actuary, accounting, that stuff. So if this resonates with you, leave me some comments, like and subscribe. Yeah, being autistic is hard, and I'm just glad that I have my diagnosis, and now I'm going through my experiences in life, and I'm like, oh, I wasn't a bad person. I just wasn't fitting the mold. So that's cool. Anyway, okay, have a great day.